buenos días, muy buenas tardes, muy buenas noches. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And welcome to our new episode of Conversation in Good Faith podcast. Bienvenidos a nuestro nuevo episodio de Conversaciones en Buena Fe, el podcast. Today we are in a special guest. So, in the last episode, you guys can see that I was sitting down in the hot chair. And questions came after me by my lovely wife, Vanessa. So today is the payback.
Hey, I was nice to you.
Yes, but it's a payback. Because today, as the host, is my time to interview, to have a conversation with my wife. And not a conversation that we usually have every day at home, because this one now is about your faith and to people to know you and to people to, know
my story.
Know your story. So, welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you. This is weird, being on this side of the table.
No, this is fun because people... Oh, and before we say talk, hello to my brother, June, who is in the controls, in the controllers. El hombre de los controles. ¿Todavía lo tenemos aquí? No se rajó.
We don't have another camera though yet.
Yeah.
So we're working on that.
We're working on it. Remember, we are what we calling? We are a happy podcast.
One big happy podcast family.
Yeah. Remember, guys, this is our new movement now. But yeah, it's interesting because you don't like to be in the spot.
No.
You like to be behind scene all the time. And for first time, I put you on the spot.
Mm-hmm. We live together, so cuidado.
Yeah, no. I know I gotta go nice. I gotta be a gentleman with the questions. Because it's for our Christian family to know you more.
I know. We
all
have to share our stories if we want people to share theirs.
Exactly. We want people to feel comfortable, share their story. Even for that, we need to share our story. So with that being said, let's begin our conversation, right? Vamos a hablar. Empezando como la Biblia. En el principio. In the beginning. Who is Vanessa? ¿Quién es Vanessa?
So,
para los aquellos que no la conocen.
Vanessa is a daughter, a sister, a mother, a wife, a friend, and here today I'm speaking to you as DRE, Director of Religious Education, here at the parish of St. Michael, St. Malachy. So all of those titles combined. If I didn't say friend as well. If I did say friend, ignore that I just repeated it.
Yeah. Where you come from, Vanessa?
So, born in Queens, but raised in East New York, in a very proud Puerto Rican household. So I am what they call a New Yorican, because I wasn't born in the island does not make me any less Puerto Rican. That is a constant argument with people born in the diaspora. So, born and raised in East New York, came to school here at St. Michael's School from the age of 4 up until 12, 13, whatever age you graduate 8th grade at. Did my sacraments here, all of them, communion, confirmation, and marriage were done here. My baptism was done in St. Anne's out on Long Island. But yeah, cradle Catholic from St. Michael's. So
you born in the Catholic faith, grew up in the Catholic faith, work in the Catholic faith, work in the church. So the easy question will be, did you be coming to church since you was little all the way up until now?
No.
Did you stop between?
So I went to, being in the school here at St. Michael's, it was a parochial school at the time when I was here. So people that were from the parish had gotten like a tuition break. And the expectation was that if you were supporting your parish and supporting your school, then you were kind of doing the same thing. Um, so our parents had to register in the parish and become members and serve in the parish while we were in school. So Sister Peggy Merrick, may she rest in peace, was the principal there. She was a phenomenal woman, a scary woman, but a phenomenal woman. Um, and she very much focused on the importance of not just Catholic education, but of your faith. So she was there every Sunday morning, greeting her kids before mass started. She knew every single person, their parents, their siblings, what was going on in the household. And not because it had chimosa, but it was because she wanted to serve the school and serve the people. So she made it her business to make sure that like she knew what was going on and how to help and cater to the people. So with that, of course, when you're around it, like I did my sacraments here, I became an altar server here. I used to serve like every single mass. And I did that for a long time. I was part of the youth group. So my cousins were older than me, and like in true Spanish families, like for one person to go out, you gotta take like the whole crew. And so for my cousins to come to youth group, I had to come to youth group and vice versa. And there was always a lot of us because looking back at it now, I'm blessed to be able to say that I grew up with a very chaotic but fun upbringing. Even though sometimes in the moment it didn't seem like so much fun or like a blessing.
Yeah, no, no. Sometimes you look at it and say like, okay, what are we doing?
But so I am one of four. I have three brothers. My parents decided they were going to continue the legacy of their parents. My grandparents were foster parents. My parents became foster parents. So there was, and my parents mainly took in sibling groups because that was what a lot of, they didn't, sorry, rewind. Sibling groups were often separated because there wasn't always space for the sibling groups in homes. So my parents specifically focused on sibling groups to keep them together. Because they understand the importance of having your siblings, especially when you're being taken away from like the stability that you think or that you're supposed to have, right? So now, four of us, sibling groups. My aunt had 5 children, and she was also a foster parent, and she also took in sibling groups. And then my house was the house on the block where all the kids came to hang out with, obviously, right? Because there's already like 20 of them, so what's 2 or 3 more? So it was a very chaotic upbringing, but a very fun upbringing. But us alone pretty much sustained the youth group because there was like 15, 20 of us coming to group. But like I said, in order for the older cousins to come, they had to bring the younger siblings or cousins to come, so we all used to come. So the youth group was supposed to be for people in like high school, and here I was at 7 years old presentada in the youth group. So that was fun. But the youth group played I've always, I guess because I grew up with older kids, people always just tell me like I was way more mature than my age. And I don't want to say that I had to grow up fast, because like I did, but I didn't. But the youth group played a very big role in my life growing up. Because it wasn't just a hangout where we got to go play volleyball and basketball and, you know, have a bigger hangout than the 20 of us at home. But it really formed and solidified what I was learning in school, right? So like, I got to learn more about the Mass, and I got to worship in different ways, because in the youth group that I was a part of, which was Jornada, music played a really big role in the way we worshiped. So when we would have Hora Santa, you know, it was led by music, and there was a lot of, and it wasn't necessarily a charismatic, like, loud, but it was like very much like more bajito and like mellow and like really gave you like the ambiente of like, wow, like I can focus and like spend time with God. So the youth group played a huge part in my life from the age of 7 to about 15, 16. Um, in that time, like I said, I volunteered as an altar server. I volunteered here in the office as like the aide for catecismo. In high school, I was the evening and weekend receptionist. So while the parents were bringing their kids, I was the one opening the doors, making the copies, making certificates, doing all that good stuff. So I played many different roles here in the parish. When obviously, like every couple of years, we would get new priests, and each priest had a different way of running the parish. Excuse me, sorry. At one point, the priest that was here no longer wanted female altar servers, so that was my dismissal from there. But then I still had the youth group that I would fall back on, and like it was heartbreaking because I'm like, there was only 2 of us and it was 2 girls. So
Exacto.
like, I'm like, so you rather have nobody up here than have me? But I was like, all right, whatever. It is what it is. And then I just shifted my focus on other things. And then like the typical teenager, right? Once you're done with high school and you're going off to college, or,
Yeah.
you start to go in different caminos.
Things change.
Things change, life changes. So I graduated high school. At that point, I was no longer part of the youth group. Because as we talked about, sometimes we allow people to push us away from God, right? We allow the devil to do his work. And not to say that the encounter that I had was with specifically the devil, but I let him win in the fact that I walked away from the youth group and I walked away from the church. So at the age of 15 and a half, I was probably closer to 16. I just stopped coming to youth group. And then I really just stopped coming to church. So then at that point, I was working here and I would do what I had to do
And
then leave. I'm like, all right, time to go. And I would just clock in, clock out, and I'd be out. And then I graduated high school, went off to college, and I studied in Rockland County. So I was over there. And like, we had like campus ministry and stuff like that, but
no interesting about it.
Yeah, like
I mean,
it wasn't home.
Exacto.
And like I didn't really have much of a connection to it. So I never attended. I attended like a mission trip. We went to Santo Domingo. We went to DR and we did in this very, very small town called La Cuchilla. So like I was involved in missionary stuff with with campus ministry, but I actually like didn't like go to mass on Sundays or anything like that.
Okay.
And yeah, so I left church for a long time. I was still active in fundraising events. So as you guys all heard before, my mom works here. My dad is a deacon here. So when you get one Garcia, you get them all. So when my mom would plan an event, we were all here doing stuff behind the scenes and doing stuff with her. So I was here when she did the carnivals. I was here when she did the dances. And I was here. So I was present like that and involved that way, but I wasn't attending mass or anything else.
Okay. So, you left because some discouragement came over, pushed you away, then you went as any adults, grow up, go to college, graduate in college. In what exactly?
So I studied criminal justice. My hope was law school.
Okay.
Like I mentioned before, my parents were foster parents, and hearing their stories, I wanted to make a difference. And obviously, I can't change everyone's situation, but some of the frustrations that they discussed was like not being heard in the courts and stuff. So, or like just decisions being made without their actual needs being respected.
Okay.
So the only way to change that was to become like a child advocate and advocate for the kids. So that was my goal. And apparently God found it hilarious because it didn't happen. I interned in the Rockland County DA's office because like I was focused, like I was serious. And then in that time, Soraya was born, and I was like, okay, do I really want to sit here and invest all this money in law school when I, like, the reality of, like, student that, college that hit. And then I'm like, now I'm responsible for a whole nother human. Um, and then my senior year of college, while interning, because I loved interning at the DA's office, and I got to deal with a lot of. I worked in the criminal court, and I dealt with a lot of victims of different things, primarily because I was one of the only Spanish-speaking people that worked in the office. So I had to make a lot of phone calls and interviews and stuff like that. Of course, with the attorneys and them present, but I had to translate and stuff. And I loved what I did. And then one conversation with the attorney, who her daughter and Soraya are literally like 3 months apart. And she was already an attorney and everything. And we were talking about law school, and she was like, girl, like, do it, blah, blah, blah. But then we started talking like the reality and logistics. And she was like, yeah, you just have to, there's a lot of reading. And I was like, define a lot of reading. And she was like hundreds of pages a night. And I was like, huh? I knew that, but like, I was like,
Nobody give you the check of reality until she told you.
yeah, I guess. I was like, wait. And like, there's no Cliff Notes and Spark Notes.
No.
And I don't think that there's any,
No.
because now there's like ChatGPT for everything.
Neither
But
law or medicine have something they call, well, medicine have a lot of pictures now, but swear to God, these books don't have like 10 minutes break. No, hundreds of pages
Yeah.
with nothing between.
So when she started breaking it down for me, and then like I started thinking, and then I was like, maybe not. Maybe let's find another alternative.
Yeah.
So then I was like, all right, let me just find something to do in the courts. And then honest to God, I do not remember how, but I ended up being a foster care caseworker. I think it was like one of those, like you set up these profiles on like Indeed or whatever other job thing in LinkedIn or whatever. And, because when you're in college, they like make you set up all these things. And I had like put my resume in, and I started just looking at different things. And I ended up finding a job right out of college as a foster care caseworker. And I did that, and I loved it. It was very tedious work. It was long hours, but the work for me was rewarding, right? I always try to look at the impact and the difference that I'm making in the people's lives. I feel like I just living a life of service without even meaning to, but working here in the church, working in the school, and always trying to help people and make situations better, especially like crappy situations better. And I saw a lot of that growing up, and I saw like the very few. We've had over 80 kids in and out of my house from the age of when I was 4.5 till I was about 16, 17. And out of all of those kids, I want to say that there was probably only about 3 caseworkers that really made a difference, that cared about what they did. They didn't care about the hours and the this and the that. Like, they really cared about the kids. So when the opportunity came for me, I was like, I'm going to be like them. Like, I didn't realize the workload it took, because it's very easy to get overwhelmed. Unfortunately, every agency that has to deal with kids in care, they're overworked, understaffed. So you're like, there's a certain amount of kids that you're supposed to have on your caseload, and there was times where you were hitting double. And it's a lot, because there's a lot of responsibility on us, right? So we have to do home visits, we have to do school visits, we have to do supervised visits, we have to do medical visits. Like, God forbid, if an emergency comes up, forget about it. There's so much more that goes into that. So there's a lot of responsibility on us, and then we have to document every single visit and every single contact and every single interaction. So it's a lot, but I loved seeing the kids happy. I loved, being able to try to be that bridge of, again, such a horrible situation, um, somewhat better. And I really took a liking to my kids and my families, and they did to me as well. Because they would be like, you understand us, you're not sitting here just judging us. You're really sitting here trying to help us. And I'm like, because if I'm not helping you,
Who
I'm
will
not
help
helping
you?
the kids.
Exacto.
Like what I do, I don't do it for the adults or the parents. I do it for the kids because I want the kids to go back home, and to be safe or whatever. So in all of that, still being active in fundraisers and stuff here, one day an emergency came up, and well, two emergencies came up, and they came up relatively close to each other. So the first one was a Friday night at around 10:30 at night. I got a phone call from my supervisor. One of the other supervisors had called her because I was the only caseworker that lived in Queens that was somewhat local to our agency, and that had a car. All the other caseworkers lived like in the Bronx, and none of them drove, so they all took the train and stuff. So if they had to get here, it was gonna take them 2-3 hours, and then especially on a Friday night late. And so one of the foster parents kicked this 11-year-old girl out of the apartment, and they needed someone to go and grab her until like the supervisor and stuff came, and meet at the agency. So I went, and before I left the house, I like ran upstairs and I was like, hey, mommy, papi, I'm leaving. I got this call from work, I gotta go. I was like, but Soraya is sleeping, so just échale el ojo. And my dad looked me dead in the face and said, you're out there saving the world's kids while your mother and I are raising yours. And in that moment, I was angry because I'm like, I'm going to work. Like, I'm not going to hang out. Like, there's something serious going on. I just want to make sure that this little girl is safe. Like, that was it. And I was like, yeah, whatever, but we'll talk about it later. And I remember leaving the house, and I, like, turned on my music and just went to work. Got to the little girl, made 101 phone calls in between. Finally got home, I think, around, like, 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever. Went straight to bed. Like, the next week, we're preparing for a carnival here. And right before the carnival, I had to do an emergency removal of twins from their foster mom. Again, the foster moms were off the rocker on my caseload. And it was down past the Barclays Center. My office was on Jamaica Center. This was like the midway point. And it was so much traffic, such a long morning, and I really had to pee. So I like called my mom and I'm like, Mommy, I got these babies in the car. It was 2 babies. They were twins around 8 months old. So they're in the bucket car seats and stuff. It's not even like they're walking or whatever. And I'm like, I really got to pee. There's nowhere that I can stop, because then I got to lug 2 babies with me. So I was like, can you just come outside to the car really fast, sit with these babies so I can run into the office and pee, and then keep going on my way. So she's like, yeah. Who comes out with her? Father Michael.
Which was the priest?
Which was the pastor at the
here.
time
Okay.
here. He had just taken over because IVE was leaving, or IVE had left and the Capuchins had came back. So they were upgrading a lot of the space and, changing things and the way things were being done or whatever. And he comes out. And again, I wasn't coming to church on Sundays, but he had known me from the events. He comes and he tells me, he goes, I don't like this job for you. I want you to come back to the church. And I was like, yeah, padre, está bien, Kind of similarly to you, where you just laughed it off.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I'm serious. And I said, I have a job. Thank you. But no, thank you. What I didn't know was that the nuns were also leaving. So the sister that was here serving as DRE was going to Egypt. So he was looking for her replacement. But it wasn't something that was public. It was just something that was kind of internal and whatever. So I was brushing him off. I was like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. See you when I see you. And then, like, he kept insisting. He called me. He was like, oh, can you come in so we can talk. And I'm like, dude, talk
I'm
about
working.
what? Like, but again, we were preparing for a carnival, so I was already going to be here. So then I was like, man, there's no way that I'm really going to be able to
Yep.
avoid this conversation. So I came in, I sat down with him, and he tells me, he goes, well, I need a DRE. I know that your job is super stressful. I know that there's times where you leave the house and Soraya's still sleeping, and you come home and Soraya's sleeping. And I know that, she's getting older and she's going to need you around more. And I know that you're going to put her in the school because it wasn't a parochial school anymore, but it was an academy, and it was here, Salva Regina. And he was like, I know you're going to put her in the school. So, don't you just think it would just be better if you were right next door, and if she ever needed you, you'd be here? And he literally was like, made it impossible.
He sold the product.
He sold
the
product.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made it impossible for me to say no. And and then like I went home and I was talking to my parents and stuff, and I was just like, I would be stupid to not come back home. Like, we're talking about home, the parish that I grew up in, the parish that I love. We're talking about right next door to my daughter's school, that any award ceremony, show, this, that.
You're there.
I'm right next door. And a schedule that allows me to drop her off in the morning and pick her up in the afternoon and still have a life with her. And I was like, you know what? This is where God wants me to be. This is where I'm going to be. And 10 years later, gracias a Dios, I'm still here. So I ended up here because I had to pee.
Because you got to pee. Yeah, I wait to God calling people back home.
Listen,
Come back to church.
God will use whatever he has to use to get you
how
in
I
the door.
How am I going to bring you back to church? I don't know. Let me make her pee. And I got to bring her back. So you came back, right?
I did.
In studying as a DRE, Director of Religious Education.
Yes. So for those that don't know what that is literally like the principal of the school of the religious ed program. Yeah. So I'm in charge of baptisms, first communions, confirmations, for both children and adults, and all that in between.
What challenges you found when you came back that you can say like, yo, this one was?
I mean, the biggest challenge,
like
the biggest challenge, and
back.
I feel like I still face it today, honestly, is when you come back to work at the parish that you grew up in, is that people don't see you as the adult. They see you very much still as that little girl that used to be the altar server on the altar. So, like, there was times where people were, like, the simplest things. Like, we have paperwork that's required for religious ed, right? So if you're coming in to baptize your child, I need your child's birth certificate, because your baptism certificates, communion, confirmation, marriage, those all become legal documents.
Yes.
God forbid in the future you cannot get a copy of your birth certificate. You can get a copy of these, and they show
and that's
proof.
be legal documents. Yeah.
So
that's
because
legal
of that,
documents.
we need to put in all the information correctly as it is on your birth certificate. People would get upset because I'm asking for their birth certificates. Or if you're coming to register your kids for communion or confirmation, we need the baptism certificates. We need the first communion. If you're coming to be a sponsor, since COVID, some of the requirements have changed. And this is one of those very situations where it varies on pastor's discretion, which is a phrase that pastors love, DREs mainly hate, because that means that the priest can say yes or no. So the rule across the diocese is that we need to, ask for the sponsors or the godparents, like confirmation certificates and stuff like that. Since COVID, some parishes still do it, some parishes don't do it. I think there was a memo that was sent out that was like, during COVID, it was difficult, so if they couldn't get it, like, it was understandable. But some of the pastors never requested it. So in other churches and stuff like that. So then when you come here and they're like, well, I didn't need that in the other church. And I'm like, but we need it. Or the same way, like, we have guidelines for as many classes and how long the classes are supposed to be. Some churches don't follow that. So those were many challenges because we call it church shopping, where they go around. And because we live in such an area where there's like 7, 8 churches walking distance to each other, if the priests are not on the same page or the DREs are not on the same page, it's very easy to deal with the, oh, well, it's not like that over there or over here, so I'm going over there, back and forth. So those were the main challenges coming out of it. Was one, getting people to, I don't want to say respect my authority because that just sounds so like,
But respect your position,
but
absolutely.
respect my position and respect that what I'm telling you is not because I want to be a pain in the butt, but because it's required
It's requirements,
of me.
yeah.
And the same thing with like the programs and stuff like that. So those are the biggest challenges that I had to face.
Yeah, no, dealing with that kind of people definitely can be a challenge. But and that can definitely discourage anybody to do their job in the church, because people get difficult, the humans. What would be, what is something that made you then keep going?
The kids. I have, it's so funny because everyone always used to say, oh, I always thought you were going to be a teacher. And I was like, I don't have the patience to be a teacher. I love kids, absolutely love kids. But I cannot tolerate them for that long. But to see the joy of the day that they're doing their communion, or the day that they're receiving the sacrament of confirmation, or even like the adults that finally feel like, okay, I'm home and I'm where I belong, and now I'm a full child of God, or now I can go, and because I did my sacraments, I can go and get married to the love of my life. To see the kids that have special needs, because I did a lot of one-on-one classes with kids that are like nonverbal and stuff like that. But seeing the kids flourish and learn and start to build that relationship, because there's kids that like they'll see me in the supermarket and they're like, Miss Vanessa, like they want to make sure that I see them. And it could random things, or like if I'm pulling out of the parking lot or whatever, like they come out of their way to come and see me. Those are the things that keep you going, right? Because again, like we've talked about many times, is it's easy to get discouraged by people, but when we get discouraged and we stop doing things, we're not hurting anyone but our relationship with God. So seeing the fruits of everyone's labor, because I don't do it alone, right? I have the catechists that they're amazing. They're the stars of the show. I'm just the principal of it. They're the stars of the show. But seeing all of that flourish and that it continues to grow, and these kids get so excited when they come dressed in their little outfits and all of that stuff, and they finally receive Jesus, like I'm like, yeah, every year I'm like, I'm done. And then every year at communion, Jessica and I just look at each other and we're like, see you again next time, same time next time, next year. But yeah, those are definitely the things that keep me going.
Okay. So we see it a lot when we talk about your position in the church as a DRE, and your job, your responsibilities in the church. Now let's go to something a little bit more personal, and it's about your faith, right? Because you are a faithful woman, Catholic faithful woman. How your faith in God, most important than anything, help you go through all of this? Like how that faith in God made you, keep moving.
So again, going to Catholic school as a kid, I think that our faith, we were taught, to lean on God and to lean on our faith a lot. It's something I definitely struggled with because I saw a lot of ugly in the world. We're in a very ugly place in society. There's just so much ugliness in the world. And it's very easy to not see the good in people when there's so much ugliness going around. But I feel that in those moments where I'm tempted to shy away are the moments that I tend to need him the most. And, even the simplest of prayers of like, God, what am I supposed to be doing right now? Or like, God, help me see the good in the people, or help me anything. To fall back on that, I think that I've experienced a lot of times where, not that I've questioned him, because I think that was like the one thing that I learned at a very young age was, don't question God. Like, who are you to question God? To the point that like I was scared to like even ask God a question, because I thought that like asking God a question meant that I was questioning him. So I remember when I was little, like I would be like, how can I ask God to to help me pass this test? Like, because like if I ask him, hi God, do you think you can help me pass this test? I'm questioning him. So I'd be like, God, help me be smart to pass this test. Because then I wasn't a question. It was just like,
a request.
Yeah. But like navigating that was challenging. But like there's times where I'm like, God, I'm not questioning you. I'm questioning what's happening. Like I'm questioning the situation. I'm questioning the world. And help me see the bigger picture, or help me see your goal or your mission in this situation. And unfortunately for me, I don't have that clear camino that you do, where it was like, I don't know if anyone has ever seen the movie. I forget if it's Evan Almighty or Bruce Almighty, because they're both, when he's like, oh, show me a sign, and it's like a big stop sign. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't get those signs like that right away. But later on, whatever his goal or purpose or whatever was gets revealed, and I'm like, all right, you got it, But I think just mainly, instead of turning away from him, turning to him, it has been the way that my faith has really kept me going, because it's easy to walk away. And something similar to what you said too is, when I walked away, you do feel that emptiness, right? Especially for someone like me, that I literally grew up in the church to the point that I was here all the time. And not because like I had to be here, but because I wanted to be here. Like, youth group was Friday nights. Saturdays I was working here as the evening receptionist or whatever. And this was still like when I was in the beginning of high school. I was working here. Before I started working here, I was here all day Saturday, because I was helping in religious ed as an aide, and I was an altar server. And then on Sunday, I was here for both the 9 and the 11 o'clock masses, because I was the only altar server. So I did the Saturday and the 2 Sunday masses. So I was here all weekend. So from having that upbringing and then not having any interaction, obviously you feel a void. And knowing that I don't want to feel that void again, and I think, again, like that's one of the things that make me turn closer to him, because I'm like, I didn't like that feeling. I didn't like that emptiness. So to avoid walking away again, like, how do you keep me in your camino? Like, how do you keep me here? Or show me what I'm supposed to be doing to keep me here.
Okay. Now, San Michael, San Malachi is your home, which for you have a lot of love. Mm-hmm. Where do you want to see the parish going? Like, what's the vision?
So the vision is, and
for the parish.
And I think this is why I keep taking on so many projects, right? The vision is to see it grow in every sense of the word. We, growing up, it was it was 3 and 4 generations that were coming to church together, right? So we had like my grandparents that came with my parents, and then my parents that came with us. And now the world is different, where parents have to work, sometimes 2 jobs to keep food on the table. People have to work on Sundays now. Sundays is no longer the sacred family day that you used to all go to church and then go to IHOP or whatever after and just spend time with your family. Now it's like, that's the last day of the weekend. We got to do laundry. We got to do this. We got to do that if we're not working. And you don't have that. And pre-COVID, we were working on a couple of projects here to get people more engaged, especially the youth and young adults, because we live in a very diverse world. New York is literally the melting pot, but we have a lot of groups and programs and ministries that cater to the Spanish speaking community, but we don't necessarily have that for the youth and young adults. So Jornada, many years ago, changed it used to be an all Spanish retreat and stuff like that. And they did like go and get their stuff like translated perfectly and stuff so that it didn't lose the essence of what the message was, but that it could cater to the Spanish speaking kids, because reality was that kids in the households were no longer as bilingual as they used to be, and stuff like that. So, but aside from like Jornada, and like maybe Knights of Columbus and stuff, there isn't a ministry that focuses on, at least not in like the Brooklyn and Queens diocese. There's a lot of young adult and youth events, like there's a holy hour here and a retreat there, but there isn't any that sense of belonging to a specific ministry. So the goal is to get more young adults and youth involved. I know that there's some parishes that are working on English versions of already formed Spanish movements, and things like that. But for me, I've been working with the diocese for about 3 years on this organization called Young Catholic Professionals, which gives, again, people in their 20s and 30s a sense of belonging, where there's holy hours, happy hours, panel discussions, networking events, and stuff like that, with not much commitment. Because that's another issue with our generation, is that we're always so busy and we're always trying to like manage, where you can't give, every single week a designated time to a movement or a group, or one event or one retreat takes like 3 months to plan. You can't always give that amount of time. So I've been working with a lot of different organizations. So I work with Marino with the Young Adult Empowerment. That's also a great organization. If anyone wants information on that, you can definitely call the office and speak to me. Young Catholic Professionals, we should be launching in the spring, so keep a lookout on that. And if you want more information on getting involved in that, also reach out to me. But just to find different ways to serve the people. The biggest challenge that we have here is, for the religious ed program, is we don't have enough volunteers. We don't have enough catechists to come forward. So if anyone is interested in being an assistant and just getting to know what catechism classes look like, and what the responsibilities are, please reach out to me. Because the biggest challenge that we face here is that we don't have enough people coming forward to teach and to volunteer and help run the program.
Your most memorable moment here in the church so far?
So you stole my answer. But the most memorable has definitely been the wedding. So of course, seeing Soraya be baptized, do First Communion, and both of you guys doing confirmation together is definitely amazing. Same goes for my siblings, seeing them do their sacraments and everything here. Actually witnessing my parents get married, because you guys all heard that story already, but I was a part of that wedding as well. But I think that is why it made our wedding so special, because it was finally like the final puzzle piece that put it all together, right? So in the church where my parents got married, where Soraya was baptized, did First Communion, where I did First Communion and Confirmation, Macho and Tony as well, but also getting married on the same altar that I served as an altar server, and with the same choir that raised me in the faith, because the people that sang at our wedding are the same people that used to sing at the Jornada stuff when I was a kid. And they were the ones that really set the foundation for my faith, as far as, the mass and the singing and praising and worshiping. So all of that was just like everything coming together, and just with the same priests and deacons that we've talked about. And it's funny, Father Arden was, before he became a priest, when he was still in formation, he lived in the house next door, and he used to do religion classes in the school. So when I was a kid, I've known him. So I remember the first time he met you, when I introduced him to you, he looked at me and he goes, "Do we like this guy?" And I was like, I wouldn't bring him around if I didn't. And Father Arlen doesn't have a mean bone in his body at all. Like, he is the sweetest guy ever. And I remember he tried to be like all tough, and he was like, "You better take care of her." But he said it with like this big smile, and I was like, "You're supposed to look tough, you know?" And it's funny to see that he is the reason why your conversion really started, aside from all the jokes with the deacons and stuff. But the conversation that initiated the switch in your head was off with him. But yeah, I think like that was really like my full circle moment. So it was definitely it was like my whole world coming together in one. So
one more question, and with that one, I think so that will be my last one. Something that you want for the listeners and the people that are watching us to know about you that we don't spoke yet.
Well, I am not perfect. I don't ever say that I am perfect. So forgive me if I've flawed you, and forgive me if in the future I flaw you. It's not my intention, but I am human. I like to say that I'm a very like bubbly person. At least that's what someone told me today.
That was me.
Notice how I just looked directly in your direction. I'm very approachable. I have that RBF or whatever face where I don't look like I'm approachable, but I am very much approachable. So if you ever see me in the street and you want to talk, or if you ever just want to pop by the office and talk, come on by. And I don't know, whatever you set your mind to, you can do. I'm a firm believer in that. I am my own worst critic. I doubt myself a lot, and I think that in the past couple of years, I have, for everything that I've doubted myself in, I've accomplished. So when it was just a crafting hobby during COVID, has now turned into my own little crafting business. So I make the t-shirts and stuff like that. At one point, I don't know, Father Michael needed a notary, and he was like, "Go and do the thing." And I was like, "Padre, I can't be a notary." And I went to school, I took the test, like I took the courses, I took the test. Here I am, a whole notary public. I got my bachelor's in criminal justice, and then I ended up working here, and I got my master's in theology. All of that with a kid at home as well. And I'm forever grateful for the support that I got from my parents, because I definitely would not have been able to do it without them. But there's a lot of times where I've doubted myself, and God's like, "I got you." So definitely trust in Him, and don't doubt yourself. Put yourself out there. Every opportunity that you don't take is a missed opportunity. And yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for opening up and share your story with many people that definitely will identify with you, because you definitely is a person that born and growth in the church, who left and came back, and still see the hope, in the church and in the future. This is a time when we need to talk to our sponsors and our people that listen to us, to please follow us, subscribe, click the little bell campanita in our YouTube page. Follow us through our audio podcast. We are every single podcast platform that you can imagine, and we're there. You just have to put Conversation in Good Faith, and it's going to show up. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, RSS, Amazon.
every platform that Jose found, he put us
Oh, yeah,
on.
we on.
So
We on it. Every single platform that I've done. Oh, the podcast, yeah, we subscribe. We are the new podcaster in the platform. Follow our business for those that don't know. And I promise you in my last episode that I will bring example of the sweaters, t-shirts, everything that made by Vanessa with love. That is the little company that she have for this type of products. You can find information. Just follow our websites. We're gonna put it right in the link in the description. If you need classes of first aid, CPR, also you have in there the ENY CPR school when we offer affordable CPR and first aid classes, really comparable with the prices outside. If you want to be a sponsor to our podcast, please, we are open to donations because we wanted to increase our equipment. We still have to put a camera in our brother June so that you can guys see him, not listen to him, and also
soon it'll happen.
Our other invited guests that we will be translating ourselves to have these conversations with them in groups and things like that we got invited to come over. So we need those extra equipment so that we can.
And if you want to become a guest,
and if you want to be a guest
and come and share your story, please also reach out. I think it's super important for people to come forward, whether you're in a group, not in a group, whatever you feel like you are in life right now.
If you want somebody to listen to you,
we'll listen.
We listen. This is the place to come and share your story.
Especially if, I'm sorry, I meant to say this before, but especially if you're like a cradle Catholic, and you feel, I know that our generation, especially myself, being a cradle Catholic does not mean I know all the answers. So I am always learning and always open to learning. So don't ever feel like you're not good enough or you don't know enough. Come and talk to us. I promise you we won't ask you anything super crazy. We don't get into really theological like blah, blah, blah here because we want this to be a space where we get to know the human side of people. And if the conversation goes that way, great, but that's not our main focus. So
we get into your life.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
And if there's any questions that you would like asked or answered, please throw those in the chat because we have no problem going up to Father and being like, hey.
Yes.
Answer
sit down in here. That we're going to ask questions now. If you wanted to see something special in this podcast, please let us know.
Yes.
Anything that you would
we
like to see.
We are here for you and to serve
do.
God and you. So anything that we can do to help you in your faith journey, let us know.
Absolutely. So with that being said, family, thank you for watching us or listen to us in our episode and Conversation with Faith, this time with my special guest Vanessa. And definitely we'll see you into the next one. Have a great, great, great finish of the day and God bless you.
Bye.